On this episode, I'm tired of being hot in a Monte Carlo. Let's see if a 12-volt AC is actually worth it.
It all tastes like chicken.
What is up, YouTube? Welcome back. This is like the weird episode because the last episode, which is actually, I'm still filming that episode. I've been working on the Monte Carlo. We're getting ready to go to Roadkill Nights. I am tired of burning up in it. It is hot. It is hot in the Midwest. Hot. It's got hot in her. So what I ended up doing was getting on ye old eBay. And I know you've seen them. There's things that are out there that you could do a air conditioner, a universal AC. I spent $500 on this deal, and it's a 12-volt air conditioner. That means that it runs off the battery. I don't have really room underneath the hood for a heater box anymore, so I had to move it underneath the dash. There's a lot to it. Let's divulge and stay cool. Here it is. I bought this whole kit off of eBay. 500 smacks I spent. They go by different companies, but they're all made by like basically one company I've seen. It's called Trilago, whatever, Chinese company. The instructions suck, which we'll get into that. But it comes with your box itself, your fan, your condenser, all the hoses and the wiring. And the magic of what we're here for is this right here, this compressor. Now this unit is a 12,000 BTU unit, which is British thermal unit. It's an energy measurement kind of deal. Think of it this way. 12,000 BTU gets you hot quick. But when it's cooling, what it does is that's how much the unit can remove the heat in an hour. It's basically in a space. So if I got a higher BTU rating, then I should be able to get cooler and hot faster. Now these units do come, they don't tell you, in an 8,000 BTU. So do your homework. The van, I actually got at 18,000 BTU. I want to freeze. It's just more efficient in my mind to have a higher BTU rating than a lower BTU rating. Especially in the Monte Carlo, I don't know what it will take to make it cool. I don't know if this is actually going to work good enough to keep it cool, especially in these hot summer that we're having here in the Midwest. This unit puts out 300 CFM of air out of this with the squirrel cages. Now, I don't know what factory is. Anything's better than what I have. There's nothing worse than driving down the road in the heat and it's raining and your windshield's fogging up like crazy. You got to be able to regulate it. And I'm hoping that all this does this. This stuff here is simple street rod mentality. A lot of street rod guys do this. This is simple. This is a new technology that I've never used. A buddy of mine has one and it worked. It kept it cool in his car and I'm anxious to see what it is. If these compressors work efficiently and don't kill our batteries and stuff all the time, then technically, say you got a car that has a system on it already, but you don't have a compressor. Now, there's never going to be anything that takes over like vintage air and stuff. But if you don't have a way of mounting that compressor on your vehicle, this might be the alternative. I don't know yet. I don't know anything yet. I know I spent $500 and we're going to put it in the car. I've actually set up the Monte Carlo a little bit different. Like I pulled the dash out because I want the box underneath the dash, which then allowed me to move the Holly stuff over and pick out all the other wiring because there's no stock stuff in here no more. This doesn't have a heater box. This doesn't have all the wiring that came in a G-body back then. I honestly don't know what it's going to do. I really don't. But I want to do this with you. So putting this all together, I do want to, if I have to cut the lines, I do have fittings that I bought, but I'm going to go take them and have them crimped because the average person doesn't want to spend $200 some odd for a crimper. So I kind of like to give you a price on what it costs on that. I do want to take it to my buddy and let him charge the system. Now, there's more to charge an AC than just shoving a can in it. Like you want to vacuum it down and then start from over so that you get a good way. So we're going to take it to a shop and let them do that. And by the end of all this, hopefully, By the end of all this, we're going to like that, hopefully. If it doesn't, then you save your money, because I'm going to tell you it isn't. But who knows? I know that this next weekend, it's already Monday. By the time this video comes out, I've already been to Roadkill Nights. I've already seen what it's going to do. So you will know then what's going on. I've already taken the dash out of this thing. I've did modifications on what I'm going to do to it. Like, this is different for every one of you. So don't freak out like, why didn't you show us how taking a dash? I don't know how you're going to put yours in. I know I'm putting mine in, but right now I ended up mounting this unit with 2 L brackets to the firewall. Now, the drains are on the bottom, so they got to go out, because anytime you make any air conditioning, you got that little water comes out the condensation. It has an area for 2 hoses to come out. Then it's actually controlled by these 2 switches right here, fan and all that. So I'm trying to make this about as much factory looking underneath here as I can. I got the Holley mounted already. I want to try to figure out a way to mount these to go into the factory air ducts. If I could do that, then I'll have air coming out the right way. Even the ball controller down low, you know what I'm saying. If you know a G-body, you know it. Like, so I'm getting there. I need to figure out a little bit more of this. And then as soon as I figure out that, then we're going to go ahead and figure out the placement for the compressor. And then we'll have to mount the fan and condenser. It's pretty simple. I just want to know what that electric compressor is going to do. The heater box is mounted on the inside now. I got lines made, and what I ended up doing is running a bulkhead fitting. This is a bulkhead fitting. You get them online, pretty cheap. What it eliminates is you don't have to drill a hole and put a grommet. I don't like that way, but you do have to make your lines, which you have to go get crimped if you're going to do it. You got to find your fittings. Fittings, I tried to find was one fitting, and it was $70 for that fitting. But you can get away with good crimp fittings, steel ones and aluminum ones, but it's going to cost you. Is it worth it to make your own lines? Yeah, but I ended up going to Napa. They crimped them, took care of it that way. So I'm actually plumbed from the heater box, air conditioning box, all the way up to these bulkheads. Now it's going to go into this compressor. I can't believe how simple this stuff is. For 500 bucks, I really don't know if it's going to work or not, but it's really a relative setup. They have lines that are going to come with it. You're going to have your high pressure on this side. Your low pressure is on this side. It plugs in there. So that's going to go to this fitting right here on the firewall. Then this fitting will go down to the condenser. The wiring on this is really, really simple. So there's a positive and negative that's going to come from your main source. So you're basically your battery, which will then be fused at that point with a 100 amp fuse. Then these 3 wires come in from the box itself. Your red, your black, and your green, which is going to be a trigger. It basically mounts all right here. There's 4 terminals here that you'll have your positive, your negative, and a green, your trigger. That's all it is to wire this. So I'm going to get to wiring, because you know I'm kind of fanatic when it comes to it, so I'm going to make it all look nice and neat. One thing I do want to stress, on a lot of times when you're building a car or you're doing stuff like this, always make sure that your connections are good. Don't just crimp and be done. 2, you have to make sure you have enough amperage. Most of the times, a lot of guys will get in there and they'll say, okay, I got a good alternator. Well, your alternator might only be put out 90 amps. Well, I bet you this thing's putting out 60 amps on first startup. So always upgrade your charging system when you're doing this, because I don't think that a normal small block Chevy or small block Ford alternator is going to keep this thing efficiently, that's the word, running. So I always will upgrade, and that's the good thing about newer stuff. It's like an 150 amp alternator that I have here from Holley, so it should work. Now, if it doesn't keep up to what I want, the next step will be a better battery, and I do run a good battery already. So let's see. Like, I don't want to keep just like jumping into it and saying we got to buy this and that, but make sure that your charging system's to par if you're going to try to run this. Because if you try to run it on a 65 amp alternator or 90 amp alternator, you're not going to be happy for what it is. So I'm going to go ahead and get this all wired up. Then I'm going to run my lines, the high and low pressure lines, to the condenser. Then hook up the fan, because there's 2 switch pieces in here for the fan too. Like, everything's here. 500 bucks. What can go wrong? Okay, so I got everything plumbed, from the compressor to condenser. I got all that done. The lines were done, had them crimped. Took it this morning to go get it vacuumed and filled. And you have to understand that you could do it, but why? Like, go let them take care of it. You want to actually pull a vacuum on it so that you don't have too much head pressure when you're doing this. Like, you just can't cram stuff in these things. One thing that I did find out is this compressor is already filled with an electrical oil. Okay, so you don't have to do that. So when you buy these things, they're already going to have oil in it. All you got to do is come up with your 134 and set it up. You've got your normal lines. They actually liked it. My buddy took it over there and he did it. He pulled the vacuum. It didn't have any kind of leak. Truthfully, it's when you're doing stuff like that, you almost got to put a dye in it to really find out. I mean, even if you pull a vacuum on them, you could still leak a little bit. You just don't know. It's the weirdest thing. It is the weirdest thing, because you just you turn it on. And when you turn it on, it works. It's not that loud. I thought it would be something crazy, but I think it's only like 45 dBs. It's quiet. Now, the initial fire up on it pulls some amps. So when I told you about your alternator, you're definitely going to have to upgrade the alternator. I don't see an easier way to do this if you have the charging system and the batteries to do it. If you don't have that, be prepared. Now, I've turned it on, and it gets cold. It does. Like, it shows 45 degrees. The problem is the box that's underneath there, its high setting on the fan is almost like in your car a 3 setting instead of a 4 setting. I did duct it all through the duct work, so at least it's blowing on us. We had a hot day today, and I turned it on, came back, and it cooled off. Now, it's not a system that you're going to be able to put on if you're 100 degrees. It's not. Now, you might be able to get a bigger one of these units, or convert over to 24 volt instead of 12 volt and run, another battery and set it up that way, and it'll take less amperage the more voltage you have. So that might work out. But this thing doesn't have any heat or air, so anything is going to be better than what it was. Didn't hook the heat up yet because it's hot. I'm more worried about driving in the rain and having that foggy fog come up. I'm impressed with it. I really am. I'm not going to say go out and buy one yet. We're going to head to Roadkill Nights, and I'm going to play with it. Let's see what it does. It's supposed to be in the 90s this weekend. So, if it takes a little bit of the chill off, that's great. I think that buying a $500 one, you're going to get what you get on these. I think the more you spend to get more airflow to the bigger compressor, it's worth it if you don't have it. Again, electrical system needs to be upped big time, because I would say the amps are pulling like 45, maybe 60 amps. It's a lot, because it's pulling there, it's pulling on the fan, on the compressor, on the condenser. It's running your box in there. Like, I wouldn't recommend sitting long without the car running, letting your alternator charge. I would probably think that it would only get like maybe an hour, but I don't think that we all want to be stuck in the heat just because we wanted to try to be a little cool. I know that I'm learning on this. So when I go do the van, I'm already going to have 200 watts of solar on it. I'm going to have 2 big amp hour batteries on it. So I think that I have it covered on there, but if you're wanting to know, it's real. So let's see what it does as far as going up there. As of right now, I'm 80% happy. As of right now. But we'll know soon, so stay tuned. Oh, okay. Everything's been put together. You saw that. Well, really, I didn't show you a bunch of it. Here's the deal. You're going to do things different than me. So me showing you how I put the box underneath there and stuff like that is irrelevant unless you're doing a G-body. But I made mine fit, and it fits great. It's wired. It's charged. And Newbern and I just got back from Roadkill Nights, which we put 1,300 miles on. The car did great. And we used the air conditioning the whole time. Now, what I'm going to talk about is the truth. I did this work, because that's what everybody's asking. Does it work? Does it work? Yes. But this is when that big screen of but comes out. This pulls probably about 60 amps on startup. Now, because you're in an RPM range, driving down the road, you know it's going to be a lot less. I would not recommend, unless you upgrade your electrical system, which we've already talked about. If you don't upgrade your electrical system and think that you could put an electric compressor on here and it's going to be fine, that's a lie. There's no instructions for this. You know that if you looked them up online. This is a legit one off of eBay. The compressor itself, it's a smart compressor. Really it is. So it basically, if you got problems with your voltage, if you got problem with even pressures, it'll turn off. We didn't have any of that issue. It works amazing. This works amazing. It's quiet. It's actually a lot quieter than even the fan that's on the condenser. Now, does it put out coldness? Yes. But here's the dilemma. If you're going to put one of these in and think that you're going to be cold, because you got to understand, we are used to a belt-driven compressor, factory air conditioning, and you're going to be cold as can be, that's not going to happen. But can it happen? Sure. You have to do some modifying. This is just a simple setup that's put on this vehicle. I was talking to people this weekend about it. I think that, say if you had a vehicle that already has a compressor on it that you don't necessarily want to use because you don't want to run a bracketry, do investigating on the compressor, because you could buy a compressor alone. Try to go bigger. You should be able to use that. And the reason why the ultimate in me would be to run factory heater box, blower box, ducting and everything, it's all there. Even the condenser is all there. This doesn't put out enough air. The problem with the box inside the vehicle is it gets cold, but when you're in your car, you know, when you turn that knob all the way to high and you want that stuff to blow your hair like you're just in a rock video, it won't do that. It's only 300 CFM of air that moves out of these little squirrel cages on the bottom, and it's not enough air to justify you going, oh, this is the greatest investment I've ever had. Now, saying that, if I was to do this all over again, I'll stick with this compressor. I'm happy with the compressor. I'm not happy with other product on it. So I would stick with the compressor, but I would take the box itself and change the squirrel cages out to something that puts out more air. I feel the reasoning why it doesn't go a lot more air is because you're already pulling your amperage from your compressor, you're pulling amperage from the two squirrel cages, your blower motors, and you're pulling amperage from the fan. That's a lot of amps to be pulling if you're just sitting steady. Okay, if your vehicle's off, that it is a lot. I think they've regulated it down enough that you only have, this is the most amp, and then the rest of the stuff is whatever. Because when you deal with the condenser, It's a nice setup. It has its own dryer. It's got its own fan, but it barely puts out air. And the whole idea of air conditioning is you want to get the condenser to get air moving over the top of it fully. That's where your coldness comes from, because your Freon goes in there and it pushes it through. You get that cold, then your whole system would be cold. So you're fighting that on there because the air's not going that good. You don't have that much air in the box itself putting out. So if you can be smart and get a unit, a 12,000 BTU unit, take off the squirrel cages or blower motors or whatever you want to call, and probably get a 3D printed piece that can go in it and then put a bigger squirrel cage, I think you'll be happier on that end. And as far as the fan on the condenser, same thing. But doing those two mods alone, you're going to be screwed when it comes to a battery. This vehicle has a lot of high-tech stuff. From the Hemi in it with all Holley, so that's all electronic. We have electronic fans, we have electric power steering, and now we've added this system. Driving down the road, it still charges good amperage, but sitting in traffic, you can watch it sit at 12.7 and start to drop because there's not enough happening here. I could change maybe a pulley out on lower or well, basically on the alternator and try to get it to work better. Or I could do what I'm thinking about doing. I like the system. I can't change the blower output on the box. You can if you buy one and just do it. So I'm nervous when I'm sitting and it's pulling that kind of amperage, okay? So what I'm probably gonna end up doing is running me a remote battery in the back, use a smaller battery like off of a Honda or something that's got some good amps, and just focusing the whole air conditioning unit on that. Because if I do it that way and run an isolator, if I'm driving it or if I'm sitting, it's still gonna charge it, but when it gets below 12 volts, it'll be on that battery alone. It won't mess with this because the Holley itself will shut down at 11.4, and I'm not about that. There is ways of making it better. There is. Would I be afraid to tell you to go get it? Honestly, the only, and you know, this is why I'm saying it like this, because I don't want you to run out and go, Cotton said that this is the greatest thing in the world. I'm just trying to prep you because nobody's saying it. There's a difference on, like, when you look these up, you see a mini split. Well, that's got a bigger fan and everything. That's why it's feeling better. This doesn't have that. So if you take that in consideration and understand that air output in your vehicle is going to be like, if you got a knob and you turn it on 5, it's going to be between a 2 and a 3. It's not a lot. You need to, if you do that route, you need to make sure that you put that output on your face or duct it somewhere to you, because if you just let it sit there and just work, it's not going to get cold. One of the biggest things I really need to do to this before I think about another battery, I'm going to do the battery. It's just common sense in my mind. I just don't like pulling that much amperage, is window tint. Believe it or not, it does keep your vehicle cooler. It was funny, when the sun was coming out, it was boiling. I mean, this is nothing but a fishbowl, right? So you were fighting that heat, but as soon as the clouds covered up, it dropped temp inside the vehicle quick. Or you were going down the road and you were sitting next to a semi and you were in its shadow, you could feel the difference in it dropping. Not fast, but it was dropping. Overall, because I'm hoping that this video makes sense to you guys. Like, I'm leery because I don't want you guys to go run out and say, well, Cotton loves it, Cotton likes it. But Cotton knows that I have to fix it my way, which means after I put a battery in the back, I'm going to change out the fan in the front, which I'll be able to pull more amps with because I got my own dedicated battery to it and I don't have to worry about it killing everything else. It was cool to pull up at a gas station, get out of the vehicle, turn your vehicle out, and leave the air on. You weren't in there long enough so it would pull the amperage down and drain the battery. You were never like that. So it was nice to get in the car and it'd be cool because you were underneath the shade. It was nice if you stopped at a rest area to just leave it running. But I don't know how long I would have left it running because it's pulling amps. The only thing I could do is I'll just show you. I think what I want to do is I'm going to turn it on and let's just see how long it goes, because it should have a measure inside of here that whenever it drops voltage, it turns off. And I'm here at the shop, so if the battery's dead, I could just throw it on a charger at that point. So, would I recommend it? Sure. But just don't. Any AC is better than no AC, right? I guess. Any bit cooler is cooler than that. But just get used to that you don't have enough airflow unless you modify the box inside. If you can make it work with your factory stuff, that would probably blow great because your squirrel cage in that thing blows like crazy. If you fix the fan issue, you can get colder air because it's going to pull more air over the top of the condenser. Yeah. Or you could probably try to find a bigger unit. I just don't want you guys to be yelling at me if it didn't work out perfect for you, but I know that this is a good base. This is a great start. I'm not scared to work on stuff. I'm not scared to cut it up. So all I want to do is maintain, it's $500. And it did work. It kept us cooler. It just needs better. And you understand, right? I hope you do. So I'm going to go ahead and start this thing and let's see how long it takes till it kills the battery, because that's the biggest part. And then we'll go from there. I wish I had a way to set up, I wish I had a thing I could plug in and show how many amps truly, but I don't. But it pulls some amps. So let's get to doing that. Okay, what I have is I have a little USB thing that shows us at 12.4 right now the battery is. I'm going to shut the door because I don't need the light and everything draining the battery. I just want strictly the air conditioning itself right there. So I'm going to turn it on, shut the door, and then let's just see how long it really takes. You turn on the switch, compressor goes on, now we wait. So it shut off. So what does that tell us? It tells us in an hour it pulled enough amps out of that thing to get below what it needs in its safety, which is good. Like it said it would do it, but it pulled it down to like an 11.4, which would shut everything else down and my battery would be like garbage because a lot of everything needs 12 volts. Again, and I keep reiterating this is a great start for what I need to do. It was a $500 investment. I will call it an investment. It did keep me cool. I need it colder. It almost reminded me of when I did have G-bodies in them back in the day, and they really weren't cold to begin with. Like, it was weird, and it kind of felt that. I just hate that there's not enough air. I guess because we got spoiled. Through the years, when we get air conditioning, it just goes through the roof, and your hair's blowing in the wind, and you're freezing. That's what I wanted. I wasn't expecting it, but that's what I wanted. So I know what I have to do. Like I told you before, I'm going to tint the windows. I need to put another battery in it. That way I could just focus that power on the battery. If I could do that, then I could actually put a better fan on the condenser. That's a huge thing, I think. I can't change the box out because I got all my lines ran to it and everything's charged up. If I didn't, I could do that. Do I think, here's the thing, do I think that you guys should run out and buy one? That's on you. I know I'm happy with it. It did help. I just got to make it better. That's my whole thing. I got to make it better. I'm not afraid to cut something apart to make it better, and that's where it's going to be. Does a condenser work? Sure. Does the box work? Sure. Am I going to make it better? Absolutely. Does the compressor work? 110%. So an electric AC compressor works its butt off. And they make different sizes, so I'm sure if you got one bigger, it would do even better. Does it get it cold? Absolutely. Is it quiet? Absolutely. Does it pull a lot of amps? Absolutely. but we're going to fix that. So if you have any questions on it, leave it in the comments. You know, I mean, it's hard because I don't know what you want. I mean, there's going to be people yelling at me like, you didn't show me how you mounted it. Of course not. You're going to mount it your way. Not me. I'm mounting it my way. You're going to do things your way, right? Like, I can't emphasize that. We wanted to focus on if that compressor is going to do something that we needed, and it did. Everything else is hearsay, she say, whatever you call it. That stuff does not make this thing bad. That compressor works. Focus on that compressor. Focus. You could probably build your setup, but you do the compressor, figure out your box underneath there, figure out more CFM, figure out a condenser, put another fan on it, whatever. But just make sure you got enough electrical stuff. Make sure you covered. If you cover that, Cotton approves it. Got it? So thanks for watching. Any questions? Leave it in the thing. I hope it answers some questions. I hope it answers your things about is it worth it? I think so. So give me a little like, share, comment. Thank you. I'll talk to you later.